Hi everyone, welcome to episode 108 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to experimental folk songwriter and producer Joshua Burnside about his fantastic new EP, Late Afternoon In The Meadow, 1887. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Koen van der Woort from Dutch band Klangstof about their new album, Godspeed to the Freaks.
Well, I think what we all realized during the writing process was that we all felt very at ease being in isolation together. I think we managed to open up a lot more and kind of be ourselves in the best way possible. So instead of having this layer of nonsense around you to just keep, to not break emotionally, all of that was just gone during the writing process. And we thought, hey, that might be a nice thing to actually write an album about, to just see if we can, make that into the new theme. So that's why we ended up with the mascot as well. It's just meant to be this layer of nonsense that we all carry around us. Yeah, it just became a very fun project to work on. And especially working in isolation and in lockdown, you don't really think about the music ever being released, because you don't really know what it's like to play it in front of people. So I think we all managed to be a lot more honest on this album just because we weren't afraid that people were going to listen to it, even though they eventually would. But, it was a very, very nice writing process. And I think the most honest album we've ever done.
So check it out. And if you like the podcast, subscribe. It's free and share it with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
XS Noize reviewers have been busy this week with some big releases featured on the site. Alex Hoggard gives the new album from the Red Hot Chili Peppers a lacklustre 6 out of 10. He says Return of the Dream Canteen encounters the same issues as the band's last album, recorded during the same sessions. It's too long and standout tracks are few and far between. Lee Campbell is more complimentary about Direction of the Heart from Simple Minds, saying it's a full-throttle juggernaut of an album flushed with celebration, stomp and euphoria, 8 out of 10. Sandra Blemster gives 9 out of 10 to I Don't Belong Anywhere from October Drift, saying there's fire and fury throughout. And there's new music on the site from Joshua Burnside and White Lies, and Bernie McAllister has the Pretty Reckless's Ulster Hall gig in focus. All of the above is at xsnoize.com.
Joshua Burnside releases his latest EP, Late Afternoon In The Meadow, 1887, on November 18th, 2022. In this interview, Joshua talks about writing and recording the EP, growing up in Northern Ireland, his biggest headline show to date at Belfast's iconic Ulster Hall, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Joshua Burnside. Hi Joshua, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hiya, how's it going?
Not too bad, where are you today?
I'm just in my studio at the minute in East Belfast at Vault Artist Studios.
Nice one. When you've just returned from your residence in Paris, you were the first Belfast act ever to be invited to the CCI. How did that feel to be asked to do that?
No, it was class, yeah. It was great. I was there for a month to write an album. And I got the guts of an album written when I was there, so I was pretty happy with what it turned out.
Did you enjoy being in Paris?
Yeah, no, I always enjoy being in Paris. It's such a beautiful and inspiring place. I met a lot of interesting, intelligent, lovely people who inspired me to write a lot of songs. So yeah, it was. It's a great city.
So going back to the start, you write about Belfast, you write about Northern Ireland and other things. Whereabouts in Belfast did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Cumber, and I've been living in Belfast for a long time. So it's I guess I'm a blow-in, but I call it my home these days. Yeah.
Can you remember going back the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Oh, that's a good question. The first band or artist to maybe pay attention to music was probably something my dad was listening to, like Bob Dylan or Paul Simon or something like that there. That made me go, wow, that's really special. And then I got into my own sort of, music when I was a teenager. I really loved like rock music and grunge music and punk music and that sort of thing. And then sort of came back to the sort of singer-songwriter acoustic thing later on when more sort of just out of practical need to want to be playing music all the time and having, rock bands and stuff when you're that age can be pretty unreliable and dysfunctional. So I thought I would just take the reins and do the solo thing. And but I still play live with a band. My brother plays drums with me and bassist and another guitarist and a cello player. So still doing the band thing, I suppose, in a way.
Has music always been the career path you wanted to follow, or did you have other ambitions when you were growing up?
The first thing I wanted to be was an artist. When I was in primary school, I loved the idea of being a painter or something like that there. So always had a want to be creative and need a drive to make stuff. I didn't really know where that came from. Maybe my mother's influence or my mum and dad probably just they were very happy for me to sort of want to do that, I think.
So when did you start writing songs?
I think I wrote my first songs in primary school. I wasn't playing guitar yet, so they were just melody and words. And I wrote these little songs for like this imaginary band. And I dread to think what they're like. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them written down anywhere, and wasn't recording back then, obviously. So I only have these sort of vague notions of what they were like, and I would love to hear them again now. But unfortunately, they're gone. And then I started doing it more in secondary school when I was 13, 14, 15. And I've been doing it for a long time.
Can you remember the first song you wrote and you thought, right, this is a really good song. I know that much about music. I know this is good.
Well, no, I'm not sure. You always have to have sort of a bit of I've always been my own worst critic, so I've never written something and been like, this is amazing, I'm brilliant. It's only after other people. I mean, you have to have a certain degree of confidence in what you do, but it's hard to know what's good once you've listened to it enough. Something that you've made, you've created, you've had to sing it so many times and go over the words so many times that you sort of lose all objectivity. And by the end of it, you're just sort of playing it with people and gauging by their reaction, and whether you're onto something or not. It's a tricky one.
Well, what was the first song you wrote you had that got the best reaction?
Probably in secondary school, I wrote a few songs, recorded a few songs. I was maybe like 15 or 16. They got good reactions. There was one called Synthetics, which was like sort of electronic-y sounding tune. And the whole theme of the song was about someone who falls in love with the robot, like a super intelligent robot. And the song is sung from the robot's perspective, basically arguing that we are no different to them, and that their love, although it's based on this artificial, thing, is just as real, just as authentic or whatever. So yeah, it's a pretty weird thing to be singing about, I suppose, when you're that age, but yeah.
Yeah, but maybe at that age, but you might have been predicting the future with the whole AI thing. It could become a reality very soon.
I know, yes. Yeah. I suppose it's a bit like that film, Her, with Joaquin Phoenix, which I haven't actually seen, but I guess it's a similar sort of plot.
You're known for your storytelling in songs. What comes first, the story idea, or does a melody come into your head that inspires story ideas?
A bit of both, really. Sometimes it's the idea, and sometimes it's the melody. Sometimes I might just have a melody, some chords, and then the song sort of comes from that. But yeah, a lot of the time I hear a story or an interesting little tidbit about something that I think, oh, that would be an interesting thing to sing about. And then I might start writing a few words, maybe a few poems, or just like writing all the thoughts I can think of about that thing and trying to work out a way to sing about it. That's interesting.
Has your songwriting process changed much over the years?
Yes and no. Sometimes when I hear stuff that I've done, like over 10 years ago, I think, oh, that's actually better than I remember it. Or sometimes I hear stuff and I'm like, oh, it's a lot worse than I remember it. But by and large, my sort of methods have been pretty much the same in a way. But I listened to a lot, the music that I've listened to from then till now has changed things and drastically, and what excites me musically has changed a lot. So, but the actual sort of methods behind it, a lot of trial and error really hasn't changed that much, I suppose.
I think the first song I heard of yours was Red and White Blues, which is about the summer marching season in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And while I was looking through your Wikipedia, I found out that you were born on the 11th of July, 1989.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So I must admit I did have a laugh.
No, absolutely. My middle name is William because I was born on the 11th of July. So I come from solid planter stock, you know what I mean? No doubt about it. And that song, even that's kind of a good example of what we were talking about before. That song and how you look back at songs you've written in the past. I would say like my views on sort of complicated sort of identity, politics and all that within Northern Ireland. My views are a lot more nuanced and giving, I suppose, than they might have been when I was in my 20s. And as I get older, it becomes clearer to me how complicated the whole thing is, way more than I thought it was when you're young and angry and everything's black and white. But you get older, you see things like that are, it's not really like that.
Well, you'll soon release your EP, Late Afternoon in the Meadow, 1887 in November. Now, you've already released the title track. It's a great song, but very bleak, about a character from a working class background suffering from mental health issues. Is the character in the song fictional, or is it someone you know? What was the inspiration?
Well, I actually, I was driving to Donegal. I was leaving Belfast to go to Donegal to do some recording, and I got stuck on the West Link because someone had jumped off a bridge, one of the bridges going over on the motorway, and so the traffic was going very slowly, and the police had cordoned everything off. But I think it had just happened because you could see, very still body on the road, and I don't know the whole story behind it, to be honest, but it shook me, obviously, as I'm sure it did a lot of people that saw that. And I found out it was quite a common occurrence. And I was talking to a friend who was an architect. He was telling me about the West Link and the history of it and the sort of connections of the reason it was built in the way where it was and all that was for military purposes as well as economic ones. And I just find that really quite fascinating, and how this place that is being used which is in this way, which is so sad, has this sort of dark history. So the person that I'm singing about is sort of an amalgamation of everyone that's been in that situation where they felt, like they have nowhere to turn, nothing, they don't know how to get help, or, it's sort of a fictional character, I suppose, amalgamation of people, all people that have been in that position that felt the need to take their own life because they didn't have any other options.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. Let's talk about the rest of the songs. What can you tell me about Woven? When I was listening to it, I had the headphones on. What's the voice at the beginning and the end of the track? What's being said?
That's a sample from the studio that I'm in at the minute. Was an old college. The Vault Studios used to be an old Belfast Tech, and they had a great theatre section, and I'm just above the theatre. When I moved in, there was loads of cassettes still here from when the students were here, and cassettes are filled with all these wonderful sort of performances and just all this mad stuff that is sort of uncopyrighted gold. sample is gold, really, for me. Some of it's really funny, some of it's really strange, some of it's really crap, some of it's really quite good. And so that's just a sample of a guy called James Kelly talking, reading out a short story that I don't know if he wrote it or someone else wrote it. It's hard to know. But the way his delivery is so bizarre, and I just thought it was a really interesting bit of sound. Not that I just wanted to use it. Just thought it would make the listener sort of lean in before like the quite dramatic sort of vocals come in much louder.
Yeah, well, you definitely did that, because I love textures like that there, and the background sound textures, and it definitely made me lean in, absolutely. So who is it Louis Mercier or Louis Mercier?
Louis Mercier, yeah, as in like a French name. He's also a fictional character who was the son of another fictional character, Noah Mercier. My last album, Into the Depths of Hell, there was a song called Noah Mercier. So Louis Mercier is a story from his perspective. And so it tells the story of him stumbling upon his mother having an affair with this giant, and then, it finds it all very disturbing, and then it jumps forward in time, and he's a French legionnaire, going off to, conquer and invade all these distant places. And so the song sort of starts off as like a little snapshot of this man's life, and then sort of starts talking about more bigger themes about colonialism and how we sort of collectively forget all these wrongdoings and traumas to preserve sort of nationalistic sort of feeling, I suppose.
And you mentioned about the giant. You've a Lost Concept album about Patrick Murphy, the Irish giant. Is that from that?
Yes, yeah. So I'm just decided to drip feed the concept album over the next 20 albums, one song at a time.
Well, why would you not just complete that album?
It's a good question. I feel like a lot of the songs, although that I'm happy with, I just haven't been able to find the right way to record them. And all the recordings I've done of them, I've done multiple recordings of the songs, and I just haven't been able to capture them properly. And if that happens, I tend to just leave it. Like this, I feel like the song is not ready to be released and recorded if it's that much of a problem. For example, the song Rough Edges on this EP, I wrote years and years ago, and when I tried to record it before, it didn't really work, so I just left it. And now that I've recorded it recently, it works now. So I think some songs just are not ready to be born into the world yet. Take a little longer.
Is that frustrating sometimes? Because, say you're working on a song, you think this is really good, but there's just something missing.
Yeah.
Sometimes is it best just to leave it aside and then come back to it from a fresh perspective?
Yeah. No, it's really frustrating. The process of creation in any sort of artistic field is filled with frustration. Yeah, generally. Some songs are just come and I write them and record them within a week, and it's done and dusted and everything's grand. Late Afternoon in the Meadows was one of those. Whereas something like Rough Edges, say, just couldn't. There was something missing and something wasn't working about the way I was recording it. It's actually Woven was originally called Black Thread, and I recorded a version of it, which took a long time to record because there was a lot of parts. There was keys, violin, guitar, vocals, percussion, all sorts going on, and I spent weeks and weeks sort of working on it. And in the end, I just thought it was garbage, so I just had to scrap it and totally come at the song from a new sort of perspective, a new angle. So trying to strip everything back and just have this organ sound, which I made on a little synthesizer called the OP1, and just vocals, just like loads of layered vocals. And I was like, and then all of a sudden it made more sense and it sounded right, and it didn't need all the other stuff. It just needed to be simple and straightforward, and I needed to trust in the strength of the melody and the strength of the words alone could carry the song, as opposed to trying to fill in every little gap and make it all sparkly and interesting. And sometimes simpler is the way to go.
The EP finishes with the beautiful instrumental "Where White Lilies Bloom." Why did you choose not to add any lyrics or vocals to it?
It's a traditional piece, melody. So yeah, I just wanted to let that melody sing for itself, and I like to do the odd instrumental track now and again. And yeah, I just really love that melody, and that was sort of my version of the melody, which is probably quite different to how it's maybe most people would know it. But yeah, I don't think all songs need to have words. Sometimes things are just nice without them.
So you never attempted to write words for it?
No, I always had it in my head. It was going to be just the melody repeated for 5 minutes.
No, that explains a lot when you're saying it's a traditional. Cause it reminded me of something that could have been on the soundtrack of the movie Call by Mark Knopfler. I don't know whether you've ever heard that.
I haven't heard that one, no.
Definitely check it out. Well, you write and produce all your work. Do you enjoy having control over it all?
Yeah, I do. I find it quite difficult to work in a studio with a different producer or a mixing engineer, and I like to sit and take my time with things. And I mean, there's definitely good things about being in the studio. There's an element of pressure, and you're limited with your time, so you have to just carry on with things, and that can be good for some people. But yeah, I like to tinker and fiddle with things, and the only difficulty is it's hard to know when something's done, and hard to know when to just go, that's good enough. You always feel like it could be better. And if you have sort of an in-depth, like, as much time as you need, you end up just tinkering forever. So, but I think that's a skill that you have to learn like any other, is to know when to go, right, that's fine. It's good enough. I can move on.
Is there anyone in particular you would send your music to once you've finished it, for to see what their opinion is?
Yes. I would send it to Ben. I would let my wife listen to it. I would maybe let my brother listen to it, my dad listen to it, my sister. Yeah, so just like close family and friends who all like different sort of music, so they'll react differently to different songs, and it's always interesting to hear what different people's reactions. My wife's reactions compared to my dad's reaction was almost completely opposite. About Late Afternoon in the Meadows, my dad wasn't really a fan of it, and Emily, it brought her to tears. So she was like, "That's brilliant." Yeah, my dad just thought this is bleak and didn't really like the melody of the verses and couldn't get behind it. But there's other songs that he likes, songs that are a bit more. I don't know what sort of songs he prefers.
Well, one of my favorites is Blood Drive. It's one of your. I looked on Spotify. It's one of your most popular songs. It's from your debut album. I really love it. But why do you think a song about a pending apocalypse has resonated with so many people?
Yeah, well, I think if you take one glance at the news, it's pretty clear to see why people resonate with sort of apocalyptic themes. I mean, it's something I've been writing a lot about. I've always been sort of fascinated with the end of the world and the end of human beings. The end of human beings maybe is more accurate. But yeah, I'm not really sure why. I think it's just a fascination with death in general. But yeah, currently it always feels like year after year that things are getting worse, even if they might not be. But it certainly feels like that.
I understand what you're saying, but I think things has always been bad or good. But I think it's just the rise of the internet where everybody has all the information about all the bad things that's going on instantly. Yes,
that's true. But then you do have things like the environment and the threat of nuclear war and all that crack. So on the one hand, yeah, I think we consume news in a completely different way, and a more stressful and sort of it's invasive. It's in our lives and it's very insidious and way that just sort of your phone bleeps and you know, you might be out spending some time with your family, and you're checking your phone every 5 minutes, finding out about what Putin's up to next, and it's, or that, you know, a massive chunk of ice has just come off the Antarctic, and you're in a constant state of anxiety then. So that's the reality that we're living in this modern age. So, I mean, that's my reality and everyone's reality at the minute. So I think themes that are apocalyptic will sort of resonate with people.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. You know, we all rely on our phones so much, but sometimes it's just best to put it aside for a while and just without it.
Absolutely.
On a more positive note, the debut album from where the song came from, Athrata, you won the 2017 Northern Ireland Music Prize for it. How did that feel? That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was a real honour. It was a bit surreal. But yeah, I just had to, like every thing you get nominated for or awarded, it's really nice, but you just have to sort of go, thank you very much, and then move on and not really be thankful, but not take too much stock in it, because if you take too much stock in it, and then it's harder. If you listen to the praise too much, then the criticisms will be harder to take. So you just have to listen to your own sort of instincts and trust your own sort of the voice inside your head more than anything else, I think.
Do you think there is good support for bands and artists in the Northern Ireland music scene?
Yeah, absolutely. I think places like the OES Centre and other sort of musical institutions around the city are great for people. Places like the Duncairn, Ray Giffen, and great for getting people who are just starting off a place to play. There's lots of great venues for upcoming artists, and loads of great young promoters putting on independent gigs. And I've always found the scene in Northern Ireland to be really welcoming and not too cliquey, and there's not as much bullshit as you might get in some of the bigger cities like London or Dublin. So I think it's a good place to be a musician and to be an artist, and I would recommend it. I've heard a lot of people from Dublin coming up to Belfast these days because of the unaffordability of the city there, and I say that's great. We'll take his.
Absolutely. Well, you've said Belfast seldom resembles a French Impressionist painting, but it is my home and it has its own beauty. So what do you love and enjoy most about Belfast?
It's a good question. I like my house. I live in a very small 2 up, 2 down on Hindford Street.
Oh, where Van the Man's from?
Yes. Same street. It's about a few doors down from where Van the Man was born and raised. And it's a nice area. All my neighbours are really friendly. It's a quiet street. And yeah, it's, I mean, there's an endless sort of list of things I love about Belfast. It's home. You can't really quantify it.
Well, I've seen some of your recent promo images of the old red brick terraced houses. I take it that was in Hindford Street?
Yes, yeah. I wanted to sort of capture the area that I spend most of my time in those new photos. And for promo photos, you know, so used to doing them with like dramatic sort of natural landscapes behind me, or with like strange stuff going on in big fancy rooms or something. And I was like, I want to do something that's a bit more like authentic or whatever, and sort of captures me and my natural environment of terraced houses.
Yeah, I thought the images worked really well, especially alongside the EP, and I love those. I mean, I know that area pretty well, and I love the old houses. You know, it's nice to drive past and see them there. And do you ever walk past Van's house and sort of try and get some vibes for inspiration?
Well, yeah, I walk past it every day when I'm walking the dog, so maybe, I don't know, something connected there.
Trying to avoid the tourists.
Yeah, you do see them often, actually. Yeah, you spot them a mile off. They walk down the middle of the road for some reason. Never use the footpath.
In December, you play your biggest headline show to date at the iconic Ulster Hall in Belfast. So how much are you looking forward to that show?
Oh, I really can't wait. It's going to be really special. We have Lemoncello supporting. We've just released a new single as well, called Always Neighbours, which is an absolute banger. So and then I'll get to play some of the songs from the EP that Laura Quirk and I released. Laura from Lemon Shell, and then we'll be playing with full band and a few other guests and bits and pieces. So we're gonna try and make it the best show we've done yet. Yeah, really excited.
Do you get nervous in big shows like that?
Not really, until a little, but not too bad. I think if you don't get nervous, you're not really, something's not right. You know what I mean? The nerves are good. If you can channel them into like excitement and passion, then you're onto something. But yeah, it's finding that balance, I suppose. It's tricky.
Well, you mentioned the EP you did with Laura Quirk, and you've also worked with Kieran Lavery and the electronic producer Mount Palomar. Now, for somebody that works alone a lot, how do you enjoy collaborating now and again with other artists?
Yeah, it's been really great. It wasn't something I'd done a lot of until sort of after I released Into the Depths of Hell. I released that in 2020, and then after that I thought, well, I've done a lot of music on my own. I should try and venture into another world and with collaboration. So yeah, I did that thing with Laura Quirk, I did a thing with Kieran, with Mike Palomar, and it also did a little side project with my brother called Shocklina, which is sort of instrumental, Irish traditional, rocky thing. We released an album of that music, and yeah, it was really, really exciting to do it. All those projects had something about them that was, each were very different, and each I learnt a lot from doing all of them. But I'm quite excited about just going back into my own little world now, and have total control and freedom, and obsess over the minutest details, and that's where my happy place is, I suppose.
But by the time this comes out, you'll have already been on tour with Ye Vagabonds on a short UK and Ireland tour in October. So how much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Playing 7 dates with them around the UK and Ireland. So heading off next Friday for London and Brighton on Saturday. Those guys are phenomenal. I'm a massive fan. And it's a real honour to get to open up for them. A few lovely venues around the place. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you mentioned at the start you've been writing and recording your third album due out next year. So how does it sound? What can you tell me about it?
Well, yes, I can tell you that the songs are very story based, and sort of, I'm thinking about recording them in a more straightforward manner, very bare and stripped back, to sort of give the words the center stage, as it were. But it's early days yet, so I can't really tell you any more than that, I suppose.
When's the planned release? Sort of later on next year? Or
probably later on. Maybe later on next year, yeah. Sometime like that.
Just a few more questions, Joshua. I like to ask my guests the following questions.
Mm-hmm.
For us music fans, music is the soundtrack of our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, there was a great album called Break It Yourself by Andrew Bird. And I was listening to it when I was living in Colombia and minding my niece, Ivy, who she was just only a few months old. I got to spend a lot of time with her, and I was listening to that album and in a really interesting place. So that brings back a lot of fond memories.
Out of all the music in your collection, which artist or band do you have the most albums by?
Do I have the most albums by? Maybe Tom Waits.
Right.
Yeah, I think probably have the most Tom Waits, like physical albums, Tom Waits CDs. Yeah.
Now, I've never really got into Tom Waits. I've always found him a bit Marmite, but what album could you recommend from Tom Waits that I should start with?
Well, I think if you find a Marmite, I would definitely listen to Mule Variations. It's sort of on the less abrasive side. They're more straightforward songs, and it's a beautiful album, yeah.
Right, I'll check that out.
Yeah. I'd say anyone who's wanting to start listening to Tom Waits, I would start with that album, or possibly he has an album of B-sides that split into 3 different albums. The whole project's called Orphans. And there's 3. The album that's called Ballers is all his more sort of soppy songs, sort of slow waltzes and romantic songs and folky songs. And that was one of my ways in when I first started listening to him when I was in my early 20s. So yeah.
Good. I'll check them out. Just one more. Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
Which song or album is my guilty pleasure? Oh, that's a good one. Guilty pleasure. I don't really have.
I always describe it, the people, if you're driving down the road in a car, if you were playing it, would you have the windows up or windows down?
That's a good way to, yeah. Oh, that's a tough one. I don't mind a bit of, what's it called? Mine again? I've forgotten her name. What's that massive star called? She's famous at the minute.
Is she American?
Yes.
Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I don't mind a bit of Taylor Swift now and again.
Well, I suppose she's alright.
Yeah. If it came on the radio, like, I'd be singing along but I wouldn't feel guilty about it. Music's music, and like, you like what you like, and who cares, you know what I mean?
So you're happy enough to drive down the street with the windows down playing Taylor Swift then?
Absolutely.
So what's next in the immediate future for you? I know you're going on the tour, but what's beyond that?
Well, I'm actually having my first kid.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Yes. My wife's pregnant at the minute. And so, the weigh-in is due to come out at the end of November. So, we're very excited about that. And then, beyond that, yeah, it's just recording this album and hopefully releasing it and touring it next year and seeing where that leads. And, yeah.
Many late nights ahead.
Yeah. I'm used to them. All right.
Congratulations. I'm pleased to hear that.
Cheers.
Well, that's brilliant, Joshua. That's my questions finished. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's good crack.
Yeah, enjoyed the EP and all your previous work, obviously. So I'm looking forward to hearing the new stuff next year, and I'll definitely be getting to the Ulster Hall in December.
Brilliant. Class. Well, then I'll see you there then.
All right, well, take it easy. Have a good day, mate.
All right, cheers. Same to yourself.
Bye-bye.